All right, we are recording. All right, you guys, welcome to our March team call. I am so excited tonight because we have such an amazing speaker, Megan Seals, and I just adore her. If you guys have not already followed or started following her on her Instagram, she just brings like such positivity and energy that it's just contagious. And so we connected a couple years ago and kind of just have been messaging back and forth and reconnected just recently. And we're like, you know what? Let's swap and speak on each other's team calls. So before I dive into that, I just want to make sure a couple announcements. You guys, for those of you that signed up as a coach, January, February, or March, or if you are signing up any new coaches, they will also get this, but it's that Best Friends BFF promo code. So they get $40 off, which is incredible. So share it with friends, make sure that you are utilizing that and don't overthink it. Don't think you need to promote it any differently. Just pick someone, reach out to them. I would honestly do like a best friend or a close friend who you're like, gosh, I wish they would do this with me. Or maybe someone who you think would love it, but they've been so cost conscious, but they are always loving on your posts, always giving you support. Those are the type of people I think of that would be perfect for this. And then secondly, we have our coaching Lunch and Learn, we're calling it, since it's at noon tomorrow Pacific time. Kim and myself are going to be leading it just because we created FOMO from the retreat. And make sure that you are sending people this link because it's going to be tomorrow at noon. And again, next Monday at noon, Kim and myself and a few of the other ladies that were at the retreat, we're going to be recapping. We're going to be sharing all the key takeaways and make sure that you're on that. We'll make sure that it's recorded. But yeah, so those are the main things I wanted to just quickly announce. And I am just going to go ahead and pass it on to Megan Seals. And wait, no, I'm not, because I need to give her this incredible recognition because she is a 9-star diamond coach, which is amazing. She is a 3-time elite coach. She's been a coach for 6 years. Success Club for 70 months. She's from Missouri, from the Midwest, and I know we have some other Midwest ladies on here. And she is married and has 2 little boys who are adorable. Reminds me when I had my first 2 boys. And she's a former teacher. So for all of you ladies that are teachers now or have been, I know she's going to bring the fire tonight. So Megs, with that being said, I'm just going to let you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, do you know if I can share my screen? I don't need to yet, but I think it allows me to, so I might.
Yeah, I'm going to make you the host.
Okay. Okay. That won't mess up like the recording or anything.
No, you'll be good.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, you guys, how's it going? I'm so excited to get to talk to you all so much. So I'll share a little bit of my story because it's very different than like how Kelly described it just now. So whenever I got started coaching, it was 6 years ago. And whenever I was typing that, I kept thinking like, no, it's only been 5 years. Oh no, it's been 6 years. Like, it's so crazy how once you get in this business and you just get rolling, like you just get that momentum going that you just lose track of time completely. Because whenever I hit my first 5th year of teaching, I knew I was hitting my 5th year of teaching. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for another 25 years. I can do this. And I was like already starting to think about retirement. And now people like ask me, they're like, well, what are you going to do when you get older? I'm like, well, I'm going to be a 70-year-old beach body coach. Like, what do you think I'm going to do? So whenever I got started, I was in my late 20s and I was single. I was teaching. Like I said, I lived in this teeny tiny little apartment, just me and my dog. And to be quite honest with you, I just felt like I was kind of in this rut of day to day. Like, I had extra time. I know a lot of people start this business and they're very busy and it's one more thing. And I always think that like the busiest women are the best coaches because they know how to get done. Like, they just know how to get stuff done. They're so like good at prioritizing and things like that. But I actually did have extra time and I was kind of like in this like, I want to do something bigger with my life. I want to do something that kind of gets me out of that like wake up at the last minute, go teach, come home. At the time, I was taking a nap every day because I was exhausted from teaching. I also have a hypothyroid and Hashimoto's. So I was just like in this fatigue battle constantly. And then I would go to the gym. So I loved working out. I loved fitness. I loved eating clean. So I didn't actually start as a challenger. I didn't start for the fitness. I didn't start for anything. I started because I was looking to get out of this rut. I was looking to get out of my comfort zone. I was looking for to be able to use my story for something bigger and more impactful. So I guess for I'm trying to say is don't discount anybody. Like you just never know who might want to work this business, because I was invited by my coach. She said, I think you'd be really good at this. I kind of see you're already working out with girls at the gym. I kind of see you're already helping people with their nutrition. And so I didn't need to lose weight. I didn't feel like I needed to do anything except for gain energy. That was the biggest thing. And whenever she sent me a bag of Shakeology, because I was so against Shakeology, I was like, I eat my food, I don't drink it. I was so sassy to her. And she was like, okay, whatever, Meg, I'm going to send you a bag. And we were college buddies. So she's like, I'm going to send you a bag in the mail. I have an extra bag. I was like, do you really have an extra bag just sitting around? But anyway, she sent me a bag in the mail. I drank it. I literally had this transformation of my energy within 2 weeks. Like I started cutting out that nap because I just didn't need it. And that's what my story is based off of. It's about Shakeology. It's not about the fitness programs, even though I love them and I do them and I adore them now. It was really Shakeology that hooked me into Beachbody and all of that, and the community. I got to do a challenge group with her and things like that. But it literally took me, I hate to even admit this, it took me 6 months, you guys, to finish a program. Like I started out with, gosh, what was it? Insanity Max 30. And this was back in the olden days, like the dinosaur days where you bought a DVD. And I was so tight with my money. I was like, I'm already buying Shakeology. I'm not buying a program. You guys, 2 months after I started, 21 Day Fix Extreme launched. And I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know what the hype was of a 21 Day Fix. But ever since then, I will have always said, I will never, ever, ever, I will never miss a launch, because I missed out on 21 Day Fix Extreme. I missed out on it because I was so new and I was so just in my own world of, I go to the gym still. I just drink Shakeology. I don't really need that stuff. It's just nice. And so my challengers were getting killer results, but I wasn't, because they were doing the programs and I was just kind of checking in on my own thing. Also, probably why I had a struggle hitting Success Club those first couple of months, because I wasn't doing our programs. I wasn't seeing the results and things like that. And once I committed, I've been consistent in Success Club ever since. So it's just proof that that product works. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into our topic. Sorry, that was quite a spiel of my getting started with coaching, but just kind of want to give you a backstory of I wasn't a mom and I wasn't, even married or anything like that. I married or met my husband soon after, but I am super excited to talk to you guys a little bit about social media, sharing your story. And you're probably like, oh God, not another training on how to share a story. Hopefully I'll add a little different twist that's a little bit more modern to how social media is now versus, maybe how it was a year or two ago, something like that. Because that's a huge reason why I started. Before I started coaching, I had this little side blog that I did. It went nowhere. So don't think that was this massive blogger and I just brought this following with me. It was literally my mom read it and maybe a best friend read it. But I had this story that I felt needed to be shared. This story of, kind of brokenness and heartbroken. And it was something that God used in my life to kind of transform me. And so I felt like I needed to share that and sprinkle in some health and fitness. And so when coaching came along, I was like, this is a great platform to be able to share that story, reach women, and earn a little side income too. So let me go ahead and share so we can talk a little bit about our topic tonight. So I am big on using my social media to, hold on, let me get this going. I'm not someone who can like talk and do something else at the same time. You would think as a teacher, I would have figured that out, but okay. So I really think that we should use our social media to build this family, not just a following. So literally building your social media thinking that these are my people. They're not just like my girlfriends, these are my family, and they're going to be a part of this story. They're going to be a piece of it, and I'm going to pour into them as much as I possibly can. So here's kind of how I help my girls think about what to share, how to post, what kind of stories that they should be telling. So you should have 3 different stories, and there can be some like sub stories within these, but 3 kind of major that you're kind of hitting on. And the first one is your personal story. So you might be thinking, why didn't you start with health? Well, most people are going to come to you because they relate to your life phase, something that's happened to you in your past life. For me, it used to be teaching. You know, I had a lot of teachers whenever I got started. So something in your personal life is what's going to probably draw people in, or your personality or your energy. So you are what's going to draw people into you. So you cannot get rid of this story and just focus on your health and fitness or just focus on coaching, in my opinion. If someone trained you differently, totally fine. But this is what has worked for me. And so I want to share what's worked for me. Okay, so what's happened, not to you in your life, but what's happened for you so that you can become the woman you are today. For me, a huge piece of my personal story is divorce. I was married right out of college to kind of my college sweetheart, if you will. We were married for a year and a half only. And we got to the point where he sat me down on a Friday night and said, I don't think that I love you anymore. And it was heart-wrenching for a 23-year-old, a 23-year-old who, you know, I grew up in the faith. I grew up that you marry and you marry for life. And I was embarrassed and shocked, and it took me on this journey for a couple of months of transforming who I was as a person and who I am today as a woman, as a wife, as a mom, as a friend, all the things. Like that moment was so pivotal in my life, because up until then I really didn't have any like trials or hardships or really struggles in my life, besides kind of the common stuff that most people deal with through adolescence. And so it was heart-wrenching for me. And so it's something that I am so passionate about, to not about divorce. You know, I am so passionate about marriage. So if you go and look at my social media, you will see me talking about marriage often. I am not, you know, scared to talk about my husband and my relationship and the struggles we go through, and the challenges of adding a second kid versus figuring out one kid and then adding a second, and what that does to our marriage, and then biblical, you know, sermons that I'm learning from and things like that. So sorry, totally giving you guys tons of backstory today, but that personal story is huge. So think about what is, you know, start with what's one thing in your life that's really transformed you into who you are today. Okay. And then the, you know, kind of popular one that we talk about as coaches, what's your health story? So why did you get started? You know, for me, I talked about, it had to do with my thyroid. It had to do with energy, Shakeology, transforming that, kind of learning what foods my body needs, getting rid of the processed stuff. Take to a moment in time. So I talk a lot about how I used to want to take a nap every single afternoon. And now, even as a mom of 2 kids, even when I wasn't sleeping much at night, I don't need those naps anymore because I'm nutritionally like set and ready to go. So what was that moment? How did it feel to be in your prime in your mid-20s and thinking I need to take a nap in the middle of the day to even get through the rest of my day. Okay. Where are you now? Where you now is so important, particularly with those struggles that you're dealing with right now and the successes that you're having. So we love the transformation photo. We love the before and after and all of that stuff. But what struggles are you? And try to make those struggles as apparent as possible and talk about those, but don't just leave it there. When you talk about those struggles within your story, talk about what your plan is to get out of them, or how did you get out of them, or where are you looking for resources to help you get out of that struggle. A couple months ago, I went on this kick because I could not get out of my toddler snacks. And I used to be like, what do you mean? Like it's goldfish, like stop eating the goldfish, you guys. I feel like I had all these women who could not get out of their children's snacks. And I went on this spiel for some reason. It was like several weeks. And I was like, every afternoon at 2:00, I can't get out of the goldfish. And so I started sharing that. And then I started sharing, on my stories, how I'm working through, what mindset switches am I doing, and all of that stuff. And I had women coming to me being like, me too. Can you help me get out of my toddler snacks? So those struggles, especially if they're like really key on your niche and their struggles, they're going to relate to that so much, and you're going to be the one that they connect with because they say, me too, like I struggle with that too, you can help me, right? And then what are your big goals and who do you want to help? So I love that, like what do you want to accomplish with your health? Like, are you good with where you are now, or are you still a work in progress? I always think about, particularly in me, whenever I was pregnant, I don't know why, but I feel like before I got pregnant, before I became, got a part of this Beachbody community, pregnancy just was not enjoyable. That's how I viewed it. Like, it was like the worst thing in the world. Like, you hated your body, like you can't work out, you can't do anything, all you do is eat all day long. Like, that was the image I had been given of what pregnancy was. And so whenever I did become pregnant for the first time, I was so freaking determined to show a powerful, strong, pregnant woman who was going to show up. And don't tell Autumn, but I did 80-day obsession during my first pregnancy, and I did it modified, pretty modified. But by golly, I did those donkey kicks, and I did all the little crazy animals and all the different things that she had us doing safely. I did it very safely. But you would not believe how many people were messaging me. One, they wanted to know if that was safe. And I was like, yes, I talked to my doctor. My doctor is totally fine with me doing this. But anyways, my mission during that, my big goal, I had this like hashtag of like pregnant, not powerless. I wanted people to get a part of that movement that I wanted to create, that pregnancy doesn't have to be scary. And it doesn't mean that you have to give up who you are. You can still have pieces of you in that pregnancy. Okay. And then obviously who you want to help. Our health journeys, the more we share our story, hopefully the more relatable that is to the other people. And we kind of get rid of those like kind of cutesy, I call them like pageant girl terms. Like, I just want to help everybody. I want to change the world. The more like focused we can talk about, not being able to get out of our pantry and, keep out of our toddler's goldfish, the more specific you can be in those stories and how it feels. Do not get rid of feeling. Feeling is so impactful of how you feel in those moments when you're telling those stories. The more relatable and the more who you want to help, your girls, they're going to come to you. Okay. And then, business. What's your business story? What's your coaching story? Why did you get started? I shared a little bit about why I got started, feeling like I was in this rut of day to day. I just wanted to find something that made me feel like I was a part of something bigger than myself. Something that was kind of out of my comfort zone also. I didn't start for financial reasons. I didn't start to build this big business or to be a stay-at-home mom. You guys, I wasn't even dating anybody. So I didn't have stay-at-home mom world even on my radar at that time. So take us to those moments of time. How did it feel whenever you were wrestling with that reason of why you got started as a coach? Where are you now? I think people still love to celebrate the successes along the way. Go back to what I said earlier, that you're building a family, not a following. Okay. So I do enjoy, and I encourage my new coaches, especially, to share those little successes. I wish I could go back and share those little successes along the way. I wish I could share, make a post about my first person that I got to help and how I was running around my little apartment and jumping on the couch and doing a little happy dance and stuff like that. I could see a little reel of me doing that and being just so excited that I got to help someone. Like, it just feels so good. And I feel like people are so drawn to like that feeling. Like, people want to feel good and feel that their work is purposeful. Okay. So I think they want to be a part of those little successes along the way. No success is too little, I feel like. But again, how does that feel? Remember, I talked about how did that feel in that moment, in that success that you had? Okay, and then where are you headed? What is your vision? This is one thing that I think is really, really hard for us sometimes to wrap our brains around, because it's always evolving. But what is that vision that you have for this business? Like, paint that picture. For me, whenever I was teaching and we were engaged, about to get married, and that was kind of the time where I was contemplating leaving my teaching career, I started painting this picture of, I always said, I want the option. I never said I'm working to leave teaching. I never said that. I know a lot of people get weird about posting about leaving their jobs. But I always talked about having the option to have this really calm and relaxed morning. How I wanted to not feel like I was being rushed at the door and on someone else's schedule in the morning, especially when I add little kids, but whenever I am getting ready, if my little kiddo comes up to me and asks me to read a book, that I just, kind of drop what I'm doing and I sit down and I read that book, and then we get back to our morning, And so I just painted these pictures of, not necessarily the work, but what that freedom would bring to me. And for me, I'm an Enneagram 9. So I'm like all about, I don't know if you guys are into Enneagram, but I'm all about like peace and non-confrontational. And I just wanted this peace and calmness to my mornings, because even without kids, I did not have that. I was like, could not get to my teaching job fast enough. I needed to be there earlier. There was never enough time to get everything done to prep for the day. And so I painted that picture of what those mornings would look like, because I didn't want to bring kids into the chaos that I felt like I was having. Okay, so, and then the next step after you kind of start getting comfortable sharing those stories is turning them into teachable moments. So this is kind of the shift I feel like social media is having, and maybe you guys feel this too, but I feel like people are coming to us. They follow people. I don't know about you. I follow people mostly because I want to learn something from them. So obviously, with our business, we follow people that we connect with and that type of stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like, I'm following an Instagram account because I want to follow them, not just to connect or relate to them, but to gain something from them. And they are almost all educational. Like, they're telling me about the latest things on Instagram or trends with Instagram, or they are talking about Canva, or they are talking about, I'm trying to think of other accounts that I follow even. That's pretty much it. Just social media trading type accounts. But turning your story then into teachable moments. And gosh, I can't think of her name. Ashley Smith has a really good training on this too that I can share with Kelly. But it's kind of, taking those lessons that you've learned in your life and turning them into like 3 or 4 points of teaching. And I have some examples of these here in a little bit. But obviously you can do this in post. You can do it in your stories. You can make reels that have like 3 or 4 little like really quick little tips. Or something longer, like an IGTV or live, if you like to do video, or if you like to just talk through, kind of what your story is. But I like to combine a little bit of story with a little bit of teachable moments. So for personal, I'm going to go through these really quickly. This might be lessons that you learned from the past. So for example, I talked about, I'll show you an example of a little bit of, kind of a marriage sermon that I listened to, and what were the top points. Okay, so just got to stop. Most of these teachable moments did not come from me. A lot of these teachable moments came from personal development, a sermon, things that Autumn said in the workout, things that Alana says in To Be Mindset videos. So I'm not necessarily creating the teachings. I'm more taking it and putting it on my spin and putting it within my story and putting it in my wording, essentially. Okay, so these might be lessons that you learned from your past, lessons you learned from that one, pivotal moment we talked about in your life. Tips around your passion or your life phase or your career. Okay, so health, this could be struggles. And like I talked about, the struggle of eating the goldfish, and how you plan to overcome that. 2 to 3 things that you're going to change in your mindset, or 2 to 3 things that you're going to do to change up, or other snacks that you're going to have instead of that. Basics of our food programs. I think it's really cool to be able to, in your own words, take what you're learning in our food programs and teach that and make it relatable to you and who you want to help. Recipes. I am shocked every time I share a recipe, because I feel like people still love it. It's not my favorite thing to post about, but I feel like people love recipes. I always look at my insights on my recipes, and it always has the most shares and the most saves. So the only thing about recipes is don't just throw them up there. Be super specific on why you're sharing those recipes based on your niche. Okay, so for me, I don't share a recipe if it has more than 5 ingredients, if it takes more than 15 minutes, if it doesn't go in a crock pot, or everybody loves sweets. So if that's kind of part of your story, maybe you're someone who always is all about the salty snacks, needing some kind of crunch. So maybe you're finding recipes that help with that. Okay, so don't just throw out recipes if you're going to do that. Be very specific on what you're choosing, why you're choosing them, based on who you want to help. Okay, how to make mindset shifts, how to insert, kind of anything. I always feel like the things I share, sometimes I'm like, that's so basic. Everybody knows that. But we always have to remember, not everybody does know that. Not everybody follows other coaches. Not everybody follows health accounts. So don't assume that other people already know it. If it's something that helps you, then it's something that someone else will find value in. Okay. And then coaching. So what have you learned as a coach that's changed you? Personal development is huge in this. So if you're not doing personal development, go read some personal development. That is where you will get inspiration for what to talk about, how to share that. Always make it personal to you in your story. I've got to put that little plug in there though. What have you done with your income? I talked about earlier about how I wish that I would have shared those earlier steps. We went through, I feel like my business really boomed whenever I was very intentional about sharing that we were paying off debt. We were paying off our student loans. My coaching income was going almost directly to that. And I loved sharing that, but not just oh, look at me, I'm paying off my debt, but little tips with it. So I would add in little tips about budgeting, or I would add in little tips about, how to put it towards debt and not go spend it at Home Goods, or, different things like that. So it was I was sharing about the successes with coaching while adding value at the same time. And I'll show you an example of that here in a little bit. Okay, so let's dig into a couple of examples. I'm just going to warn you guys, I am a long poster. So if you're someone who likes short and sweet, you're not going to follow me, because I love posting long posts, but I like to break them up into little things. So this would be an example of a personal story / teaching moment. So this was, I had a little blurb at the top. I didn't share this whole thing, but at the top, I was kind of talking about us adding a second child and, kind of the struggle that we've had in our marriage around that. And I don't remember what I said, something about communication, different things like that. And then these are directly 1, 2, 3 are from a sermon that I watched that I've had several women ask for that sermon. And that is part of my story. I will talk to people about marriage and, like just listen. Most women just want you to listen. But I love that that's a conversation starter that I get to have with women. Okay. So these are just little tips that I got from the sermon, and then kind of either a top takeaway or a struggle that I have with that or something like that. Okay. And then obviously a cute photo always goes well with, fun little things. I'm in the hot mess of potty training. And so this is another little personal story along with some tips from a book. Let me please admit that all of these came from a book that I read. I did not come up with these tips myself. I just put them in my own words. But this is super relatable. Most of my women are married. Most of them have 2 kids. They have a toddler. They have a baby. And so, who doesn't love talking about potty training? I feel like everybody has their own little story with that. Okay. Oh no, I lost my little cursor. Here we go. Okay. So I'm not going to hit on the health and fitness one. I feel like that's something that I think comes a little bit more relatable to us, and I think there's a lot of emphasis on there. So I'm going to jump into some coaching examples. So this was a post from when we were building our house. So we just moved into a house that we built this past year. And this is kind of my story of whenever I got started, and a little piece of me getting started as a coach, and just kind of went through that. Not as much teachable moments in this, but just kind of a little bit of where I was and where I am now, and how impactful coaching has been in that journey. But here's an example of a teaching moment. So I told you that we paid off debt and how I loved that. This is something I'm kind of toying with. I don't know. Supposedly the new thing with Instagram is it doesn't have to be perfect and pretty, which is like really hard for me to get rid of. But this was one suggestion of making a listicle. This is just in notes, and the little bubbles are all in like just the notes on my phone. And then I screenshotted it. But this is right now, like my top saved and my top shared post right now. So it's kind of crazy to think about that it's like just, a list that essentially was from someone else. But I shared it, talked about how impactful this plan was for us in my marriage. You see how everything's kind of coming together. And if they follow me, they know that a lot of this came from coaching, and so it's just kind of a little blurb, not a direct coaching post, but essentially still, coaching has helped us pay off debt. So, all right. And then a fun reel. So try to have a lot of fun with reels. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. And at first I was like, this is not happening to me. But I'm noticing that my story views are going down. And I think it's because reels views are going up. Or that's what I'm going to tell myself. I'm going to keep telling myself that. And then, figure out my stories of how to get those views back up. But, we have to go with where things are going. And right now reels are big. And so try to think about what would you go on your story and maybe teach about. And instead of talking about it on your story, just create a really quick reel. It doesn't have to be super fancy. This is a reel that I did at the beginning of 2021 about how to create a vision board, and I had really simple little 3 or 4 steps of how to do it. And here I talked about coaching and how one huge change in me was the fact that I became a dreamer whenever I became a coach. I became this person who believed that she had control of her future and she could change things about it. And so, it's a little tip along with a little coach story. And so, I think that's all that I have in my examples. So I was not looking at the chat, but if you guys have questions, I am happy to answer those. Stop sharing.
Don't be shy, guys. That was so good. I love the examples because I think sometimes we get so caught up in our head that we have these ideas, like you were saying, like Instagram needs to look pretty. And we spend so much time having not only the perfect caption in the story, but then what photo should we put with it? And I find that a lot of newer coaches, I don't know if it's like this way for you, Megs, but it's like they get caught up in that aspect instead of just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. How do you get your coaches just to take action and not be, I know that's like, there's no secret sauce there.
So, and I love this because you guys, Kelly did such a good job on the call. And I just have to kind of echo it of like, just breaking down, even if you have to like break it down of like, okay, we're going to make this post and we're going to make this post by this date, send it to me so I can check it out for you. Okay, let's post it. Have you posted it yet? And so it's like literally just like at the beginning, kind of like taking step by step with them. I do find that putting them in some kind of a pod together and just like recognizing the heck out of them. If you find one doing something good, screenshot it and put it in that pod. And so I think that like, oh, well, Mary, made her coming out post or her I'm a coach post. I should do it. Oh, Mary had this conversation with so-and-so. And she asked this question. Maybe I should go do that. And so I think it's like that, like kind of FOMO, I guess, of, well, if she's doing it, maybe I can do it. So I think that is huge also. And if you only have one coach, getting them, partnering up with someone else, saying, hey, do you have some, I'd love to help in some way, but I just need some, I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh yeah, you did. Oh, Haley has a question for you. Did your niche audience change when you stopped teaching and started coaching full time?
Not right away, because it was still pretty new, but also keep in mind that like I got married, left teaching, got pregnant all within like 6 months. So I had a ton of life transitions. And so it like naturally changed with that. So still today, like my leaders are teachers. And so I don't think that's like gone away. I just don't talk about teaching as much because I feel kind of distant from it also. And I find like if I talk about it, I don't know, I get like it's hard. It's hard for me to talk about now, I guess, because I'm in such a different life phase now. Yeah. And so yes, I think it did change. But I also started talking a lot through that year. I started talking a lot more confidently about coaching. And so it went from kind of helping teachers with health and fitness to more helping women build businesses.
I have a question. So do you try to, like, when you're planning out your week, if you plan out your posts at all, do you look at it like, okay, I am going to make sure that I talk about these 3 major points, like you said, personal, health, and business? Like, do you make it always a point to talk about coaching once a week, throw in health, transformation, your story there, and also something personal? I'm just curious to see how you, I don't know, wrap it up in your head.
Yeah. So it's not perfect, but I do just try to like keep it super simple and rotate through those 3 things essentially. So I try to do something that is non-coach related, more personal related, still very focused on my niche though. Like I'm not like completely out of left field in my personal stuff. And then some kind of health and then some kind of coaching. But I also categorize my months of like the very beginning of the month. The first 2 weeks is very like health and fitness focused. And so that is what you will see hardcore in my stories. And then I hit Success Club, try to hit Success Club 10 as quickly as I can. And then about halfway through the month, I transition, and my calls to action specifically are more coaching calls to action. So it's not necessarily that I will say, like, my emphasis in my stories and what I post at the beginning of the month is health and fitness and that type of stuff. And at the end of the month is much more coaching with the calls to action to go along with those. So like, I'm not going to do a call to action about coaching on the first of the month usually, because that's just not how I set up my marketing for the month. So I always try to lead into challenge group and then lead into coach peak, coach mentorship at the end of the month. But I do still talk about coaching. So I try to cycle through those things. Okay, so we're your first working coaches warm market. Yes. Yes. My first one was, but after that, it's been kind of a mix, I would say, of my working coaches. I still to this day, in December, okay, she just hit Success Starter. My little cousin signed up, you guys. So it's like 6 years into this business, my 19-year-old cousin signs up, hit Success Starter, hit Emerald, now has these like huge goals because she's grown up watching me coach, which is so crazy to me because I don't feel that old. But that's my warm market, you guys, that I'm 6 years into here. Like I'm 6 years into coaching. And so it always cracks me up when people are like, I'm just ran out of my warm market. I was like, or you just don't relate to them. Like I don't know if we ever run out of a warm market. So yeah, it's been really fun to get to know her because she's always been so much younger than me. And so it's just, I don't know. I love it.
Yeah, one thing that I guess I would say when I first noticed you, I think I was telling my team, like, I think I don't know if you showed up on my search bar or what, but you were just that, relatable girl that I was like, oh, she's a coach too, but let me just check her out. And I think it was like what I loved about what I saw that you were doing is that you are really bold too. Like you're bold in a way of when you talk about coaching, you are not shy about it. And I think that is something that our team struggles with like I still sometimes do. And I'm like, why? Like I'm 6 years in almost. And I still overthink like, how can I share coaching? How can I be relatable? And I think that like we are so, and I don't know if your team is like this, but it's so easy to talk about the fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to talk about like, oh, my transformation or, sharing what you're doing throughout the day that is about health and fitness and putting in personal stuff too with your kids. But then it's like, I don't know how to talk about coaching. How do I bring that up? How do you best, like, what are your, I guess, pointers for newer coaches, but also those that have been in it for a while too?
Yeah. So I need to find a graphic. This was like back when, gosh, I don't know. I think I was like a diamond coach or something. And I was sent this image. Let me see if I can find it because I'm going to forget what the questions are. Basically, it's just 5 questions to ask yourself to help you with what to post about with coaching. And I can come up with them, but I can't find it right now.
You can send it to me later too, Megs.
Yeah, here it is. Okay, so I already mentioned this, but why did you decide to become a coach? Really dig into what that story is. And often it's more than one reason, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be just one reason. But why did you decide to become a coach? Number 2, what has coaching done for you? And I will send this. Number 3, what do you see coaching doing for your future? Number 4, what are your favorite parts of coaching? And then number 5 is what made you nervous about coaching before you started? And that was how I based my post, and that based on those questions, I would take one question and I would really narrow in and focus in as much as I possibly can. So I know it's what's your favorite parts about coaching? I would never make a post about here's what I love about coaching and I would list them all out. It would be like you go really, really deep on one piece and how that is your favorite part and why that's your favorite part and why that's so impactful to you. And so it's kind of, I think a lot of times when we talk about coaching, we get very surface level and we get into this like pageant girl mode. And we need to get out of like the cutesy, like it changed my life. Oh my gosh, rainbows and sunshine. And more like, okay, so like, what's it actually doing for you? Like, what is it? How is it changing you and your family and things like that? I don't know. Whenever I had like a bigger mission, whenever I had this bigger like goal for our family and for us, like we weren't even married yet and we were already fighting about money because my husband grew up with, you have debt, that's fine, that's okay. And I was like, no, I didn't graduate college with debt because I paid it as I was in college. So I was like, no, we get rid of it. And so we were like having these like constant battles over what we do with debt. And I was like, you know what, we're going to pay it off. I'm going to pay it off. I'm going to pay it off with my coaching income. And I got really like amped up about it. And so that's kind of where my boldness came from, was I had this like really big purpose with what I was doing with the income from coaching. And so I saw how that could, I don't know, impact our future, I guess. And I just got all like obsessed with Dave Ramsey. So
Love him. There's one other question from Haley. She said her current struggle is finding new people in her niche. Any go-to tips?
So I am not super great at going to hashtags and finding people or something like that. So I have a very local following. So a lot of my following is in the mid-Missouri area, Missouri maybe, or surrounding states. And I think the reason for that is I never went to like boy mamas or anything like that. Like I will go to a friend's photo. So it's kind of like getting lost, like scroll braining, but going to a friend's photo. And I built a lot of my like base business on Facebook. So this is kind of, like the Instagram version of doing it on Facebook. But essentially I would go to a friend's photo, and if there was multiple girls in there, that's who I would follow. So I at least had one connection person to these other people. Because if this girl's in my niche, these girls are probably also in my niche. Okay. And so I would go and do that with the followers that you have versus constantly going to like new person, new person, new person, new person, all of that stuff. Start making that warm market bigger with one person. So for example, I did this on Facebook. So if you use Facebook, I don't know if anybody does or not, but I would go to like my best friend Katie is like, I will be a discount coach. I never want to coach. Totally fine. But she works at this big company. And so I would go to her Facebook and her friends list and go click on the, her, I don't know what it's called. But anyways, I'd go there and I would friend request other women who looked like me, looked like her. If she's friends with them, I'd probably be friends with them. So that's a really simple way to do it. That isn't getting lost in like the crazy hashtag game. I feel like anytime I go searching at hashtags, it's usually other businesses using the hashtags is what I find. I've had some girls, some of my coaches will go to like bigger accounts of people that they love and look at who's commenting or liking that and connect there with women. But I like to keep mine here. in in this area. And then making sure you're speaking to them, making sure that you're putting out content that they want to hear, that they can connect with. And the clearer you can get on your story and then teaching based on those things, they're going to stick around, I think.
Yeah, I love all of that. Anyone else have another question before we log off? I know, are you 2 hours ahead?
Yeah, so it's a little bit before 9.
Okay.
I talked for longer. I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough content. I might talk for 15 minutes and then I just get to talking. Sorry, you guys.
It was so good. No, we appreciate it. I think your tips were super helpful, and I'm sure there'll be things that come up and I can always message you too. Oh, what does your daily routine look like?
Don't ask me, Haley. Chaos. No. So right now I'm waking up at 5 because that gives me at least an hour and a half and before my boys wake up. So I don't know. I like starting out with workout. So I always do, well, right now I'm still breastfeeding. So I pump so that I'm not full to work out. And then, so I pump and do just some things, maybe I will listen to personal development while I'm brushing teeth, stuff like that, and then get my workout in. And then after workout is usually when I do challenge group stuff. So post in my challenge group. I've been trying to do a lot of live videos in my challenge groups. So I'll pop in live real quick, try to comment on people if I can. And then I run upstairs and usually that's about the time that boys are getting up. So that it depends on the day. So I have my boys home with me on Mondays and Wednesdays and Friday. And then they go to a sitter on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So my Tuesday and Thursday looks so different than my Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But I try to unplug. The only thing that I'll do is maybe some stories while I'm with them, or if there's like National Wake Up Call or something like that, I'll have it playing while we're playing or outside or something like that. And then the afternoon is usually nap time, is when I try to do as much as I can, but I try to bulk as much as I can on those Tuesday, Thursdays, so that Monday, Wednesday, Friday is more of just connections, invites, follow-ups, those types of things that are the like kind of daily stuff instead of team things or creating, stuff like that. What do you talk about in your lives? In my challenge group or my bod group, I just talk about whatever is on my mind at the time. So typically it's something that Autumn said in the workout and do a 9-week control freak, asking them to tell me about, like successes that they're having, maybe talking about, I don't know, other products that I use. So we're big on using Daily Sunshine with our toddler because he like hates vegetables. And so I'll just share like a product, how we use it, how we make it, that type of thing. But yeah, I switched over to bod groups completely, probably, I don't remember when. It's been a couple of months. I like jumped in and then I jumped back out and now I'm back in. Now I'm back in for good. Yeah.
What about a favorite podcast or book? Oh, that's a hard one, I know.
So right now I am reading, you guys have all got to read the book I'm reading right now. Everybody always thinks of what. It's called Know What You're For. Especially if you're growing this as a business, this is more professional, not personal development, but here's what it looks like. Know what you're for. It's on Audible, obviously, always a plus. Amazing. It's really good, really challenging me to give more to my clients than I've ever had before. And yeah, he has like a whole chapter about just writing personalized notes. And so it's gotten me back into this like grind of writing little personal notes to my clients and coaches and stuff like that. But very much on like brand loyalty and how to get word of mouth, going in referrals and stuff like that. And so it's a really great book. I'm not really a podcaster. Like, don't hate me for that. I just don't really think to look at podcasts. I'd rather read a book than listen to little like spurts of. If I'm going to listen to something short, I want it to be like a YouTube training that another coach did on how to do something. So, yeah.
And then do you guys do free groups? Do you recommend that with your team?
So I'm toying with the idea of bringing that back into like new coach training type stuff, because I started my business on free groups. Like for my first whole 6 months, I did clean eating free groups, and it was really impactful for my business. And so I don't know where I got rid of that along the way, but I'm definitely thinking of bringing it back. I know Kate Schultz is really huge into doing them on bod groups, and I tried that in February, and I had one challenger come from it, which is I think is a big win, but it's still new, so I can't really talk too much on it.
Yeah, you know what? We are the same. Like Shannon, who I lead our team with, she's on, and we did free groups. Oh my gosh, like all the time. And it's crazy because it's like now we rarely do them. And so our new coaches don't really know like how important that was, especially like doing it on Facebook and gaining friends on that. It's just so easy to, yeah. But do you do free groups on the bod group app, or are you doing Facebook?
So when I ran it in February, I did do it in bod, and they just signed up for a free membership, not the 14-day membership. I'm not a fan of the 14-day membership just because you have to like cancel it and blah, blah, blah. Like I can't track that kind of stuff. So I would have them, you can just send a share cart and have like no purchase so that they just sign up, and then you can, if you have them, if they fill out the share cart, you can then just add them directly to a group after they purchase. There's no purchase, but they just basically give their name and email. And I feel like it gives a little bit of skin in the game for a free group. It kind of forces them to at least give something. You have their email then. And so I think it's really cool to like show them the tracking, show them the features of bod groups. There's a little bit of a learning curve, I feel like sometimes if they're not super tech savvy, but I would say if that's where you're going to run your groups, that's probably where your free group needs to be also.
Yeah. And it's just like anything. I mean, engagement is, you got to work for it. You got to work really hard for engagement, even in your regular challenge group. So yeah, free groups are going to be, sometimes you're like, partner up with other coaches that are on the similar level as you and say, hey, let's do this together. That way, at least you two or you 3 or 4 are posting and showing up, right? So
yeah, I don't know. I feel like sometimes free groups are more of a reason to just like stay in contact with someone than it is to like get the, like, I love engagement and stuff like that. Like I love community, but sometimes it's just a reason to be like, oh my gosh, did you get that workout in that we posted in there? And just a reason to stay in front of them, I guess, and show them how much you care. So
yeah, I love that. That's a good way to look at it. Oh, all right. Well, Megan, thank you so, so much. I know everyone loved it. So just appreciate you taking the time out of your night. And yeah, it was great.
all right, sounds good. Thank you guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you.